Hello and welcome to the reboot of the Mario Kart DS monthly world record recap. This is a series where I hope to review every Mario Kart DS world record set in the most recent month and point out key time saves, give you the stats, and tell some stories about them. In April, we had 20 world records, 15 in non-PRB and 5 in PRB across 6 different tracks. Starting off the month, we had an improvement on Bowser Castle 3-lap by MKDasher with a time of 1:49.432. This is a cut of 444 milliseconds over the previous record held by Taiga set on September 26th of last year. The run had a pretty average lap 1 and a decent lap 2. Dasher commented that his previous record from 2017 had some huge time loss on lap 3, and this run had a really great final lap. Already 139 milliseconds ahead of Taiga into lap 3, Dasher saved an additional 0.3 over the record thanks to a faster final bridge. In the end, he pulled it together and closed out the run for a new record. Also, the music on this video is fantastic. Give it a watch if you have the time. It's so sick. 12 days later, Taiga would return the favor on Bowser Castle, cutting an additional 239 milliseconds off the record with a time of 1:49.193. This run was just all around a cleaner version of Dasher's 432, with more risks taken, like cutting the corner on lap 2 after the spinning bridge. The lap 3 in this run was somehow even cleaner than Dasher's, with a 35.803 final split, still using the safer lap 3 bridge strat. Just an absolutely excellent run, and it'll be interesting to see if this track will be taken to sub 149 in the future. Staying on Bowser Castle, we'll move to flap territory where MKDasher set a time of 35.467, a 20 millisecond improvement over Taiga's record that stood for 41 days. This flap had a fantastic turn into the spiral room, but had some slightly sloppy driving afterwards. It's also important to note that this flap was done on lap 2, starting at a specific time as opposed to on lap 1. Taiga took 14 days to respond this time and cut a clean 100 milliseconds off Dasher's flap with a 35.367 run. Taiga did this flap on lap 1 and the driving is absolutely excellent. Taiga had a fantastic opening, spiral room, spinny bridge, and a great ending. It's hard to really critique literally any moment on this run, and I have a hard time seeing any significant time being taken off this run in the future. GG's to Taiga and Dasher on your great improvements to BC Flap and 3-lap this month, and good luck if you somehow choose to continue further with this track. 1 week after setting the record on Bowser Castle, Dasher broke the record on Rainbow Road non-PRB with a time of 1:54.420. This is a clean 300 millisecond improvement over the previous record, and the very first 4-for-4 corner cut run. He lost 0.2 on laps 1 and 2 due to slower cuts, but more than made up for it by going for an additional corner cut on lap 3. Dasher commented that he was overall quite disappointed with this run due to its slow driving overall. Dasher knew that significant time could be cut from this run, and 1:53 was absolutely possible. 11 days later, he got the 1:53 he wanted with a 1:53.867, a 553 millisecond cut over the dank 420 record. The run had cleaner cuts and better driving everywhere and a great 38.0 split on lap 3. On the run, he said, "First time I got a decent run with 4-for-4 corner cuts. Happy to sub 154 even though I think this can get to low 153 with better corner cuts, but it's really hard to get them consistently. I'm happy with this time for now." Interesting to note how much time he said he could save on this run, but it's very important to note how difficult this run really is. This run also featured the debut of his new input and speed display, part of a community effort to show off Mario Kart DS in the highest quality for new and experienced runners alike. Before we move on to our next 3-lap, let's take a brief intermission to Airship Fortress Flap, where Beta lowered his own world record 4 separate times in 1 week, from 33.939 to 33.863. The intermediate improvements ranged from 5 milliseconds to 30 milliseconds, but we only have a video of Beta's final improvement of 33.863. Also interesting to note that no one has a time within 150 milliseconds of this flap, and is 300 milliseconds faster than most other top players. It's also the first sub-34 flap to be recorded in HD. But let's stop stalling and get to the analysis, okay? One last note. Beta used BLS for this run, whereas most other runners use egg. The biggest time saves in this run probably come from the U-turn in the ship and the MTs and neutral hops into the finish instead of snaking. GG's to Beta on his multiple improvements on this flap and making the world record even stronger. Good luck on whatever track you choose to play next. We move from the treacherous airship fortress to the relaxing sands of Koopa Beach 2 non-PRB, where the greatest storyline of the month played out. Max set 5 straight world records in this track, lowering the record from 42.120 to sub 42 with a time of 41.973, a truly excellent time. On April 10th, Max beat his own 414-day-old record with a time of 42.068, just 1 millisecond from perfection. Max was 74 milliseconds behind his ghost into lap 3 and saved 126 milliseconds on the final lap, including a 6 shroom cut to save 52 milliseconds in total. Now I should mention going forward that splits on KB2 don't really mean a lot because of the shape of the finish line. This means that you can cross the line at inconsistent spots, allowing you to gain and lose time in strange intervals. This finish line shape is also exploited on the third lap by finishing ultra wide and ultra early. I'm not going to go into extreme detail on every improvement, but I will point out some key spots that can gain or lose time in each run. When looking through the runs, I can split each lap into 5 parts, and each part can be judged based by its tightness and alignment and its flow into the next section. I'll call these the start, water section, grass transition, fish section, and lap transition. For the start, you want to remain tight and keep your MTs fast and slightly curved, keeping as close to the grass without hitting it. The transition into the water section is a little different on lap 1 because of the difference in angle, but the gist is to set up a snaking line that will set you as straight as possible across the water. In the water, you want to get from point A to point B with as little deviation as possible. Really rubbing up to that second deep water section is risky, but quick, and this best can be seen in the lap 1s of his 42.025 run and 41.993 runs, as well as the third lap in the 41.973 world record. Note that on lap 1, you do a different set of mini turbos. Transitioning out of the water into the beach section is difficult to do well, and you can even see some blips that occur in some of the ghost comparisons throughout the series of records. The last MT from the water section is held and then released to cut as much of the grass around the turnoff as possible. But it's not done after that. It's also important to push out another quick MT in the same direction before the transition into the fish section. You will notice that even the best runs get a little bit of grass here, and it's honestly very hard to differentiate time loss and time gain here without ghost replay. The next session, the fish section, is all about being efficient and setting yourself up for a tight final turn and lap transition. This section can be confusing because there are multiple approaches that will appear to lose time but be better later, and lines that look direct which will screw you over once you reach lap transition. The comparison of the 42.068 to 42.025 run really shows this off well. You can also see on the second lap of the world record an example of a slightly wide line that ends up losing a fair bit of time. The final part of the lap is the lap transition and the final shroom on lap 3. This section all comes down to MT speed and the line that you entered into it with. It's also crucial in this section that you set yourself up with a good line for the first section of the next lap. The ahead or behind indicator on screen isn't exactly important since that delta is mainly based on your driving elsewhere in the lap. Max is very consistent with this section, and in the world record sets himself up with a great line for the first part of lap 3, despite his wide entry. Now the one part you actually want a wide turn is in the final shroom of lap 3. The goal is to send yourself into the deep water as close as possible while still being considered in bounds when crossing the plane of the finish line, which extends outwards into the water. The world record does an excellent job of releasing the slide and starting a chain of right-facing mini turbos, which carries him to the line as efficiently as possible. I recommend giving all 5 of these records a watch yourself and making mental notes about how each part of the track was driven and where time was gained and lost. GG's to Max for driving a near-perfect world record and getting a sub that many thought wouldn't be broken for a long time with such style and effectiveness. Good luck on whatever track you may choose to play next. Now we can make the transition to the driving that Max hates to the driving that Max likes. That's right, we're off to the land of PRB to review the 5 records set in that category this month. The main storyline this month was the battle on Desert Hills Flap. On April 5th, MKDasher beat Toa's year-and-a-half-old world record by 18 milliseconds with a time of 21.226. Dasher knew he could improve it, so he didn't record and came back the next day 80 milliseconds faster with a time of 21.146. This run was very nice, but it had a bad second shroom and a questionable ending. He wanted the sub, and he kept grinding. But it wouldn't be Dasher who would set the next record. Instead, Taiga swooped in and cut 70 milliseconds off with a time of 21.076. This run featured similar driving with a better ending finishing to the right of the finish line pole in a true all-or-nothing flap fashion. Dasher would incorporate this into his new flap record, the first sub-21 flap on Desert Hills with a time of 20.974, an improvement of 102 milliseconds over Taiga's time. To see not one, but 2 flap records be improved by a margin of over 100 milliseconds in 1 month is quite impressive. Huge GGs to Dasher and Taiga for really one-upping each other this month and lowering records in a big way. But Dasher wasn't done. Later in the month, he started playing Wario Stadium shortcut flap and 3-lap. On April 24th, he would set the final record of the month on the flap with a 35.858, an 11 millisecond improvement over Toa's record that was set in November of 2018. This flap was done on lap 2 with egg 1, which allows you to take a better opening line and have an easier time with PRB lines in performing the shortcut. After the first big jump, you shroom upon landing to preserve the speed after the jump. Throughout the track, Dasher uses PRB over the mud to preserve his speed by continuously mini-turboing. Then comes the ending out-of-bounds shortcut. This is a tricky one that requires you to bounce on a hill and send the car over the wall and fall out of bounds to trigger a checkpoint after the hairpin turn to the right. This saves about a second over going around and over the jump, as long as you get the respawn boost after landing when Lakitu picks you up. I'm really excited to see what Dasher can cook up with the 3-lap in this category in May. So that was the Mario Kart DS World Record Recap for the month of April 2021. April had the most world records of any month this year, and the most in 1 month since October of 2017. 2021 has been a great year for Mario Kart DS records, with double-digit records being set in each month so far this year. I'm very excited to see what records will be broken and what players are going to break them going forward this year. And I look forward to figuring out exactly how these records are set and sharing the stories and struggles of the people who set them. Please make sure to check out all the records in this video on your own and the channels of the people who set them. They're all really great people and they get super sick times. All links will be in the description. I'd also like to thank the Mario Kart DS Network Discord, my good friends in the Mario Kart DS productions team, Abel, Peak-Alex, and Quantum, and the runners themselves for answering my questions and setting records for me to review every month. Thank you so much for watching this record recap video, and please stay tuned for next month's review and any content that the MKDS community is putting out very soon. See ya!